What's up, Youth United? My name is Coleman Marion. I am I'm the ministry leader here at YU, and I'm super excited that each and every one of you are here tonight, that we get to come together again and we get to talk about a message that I prepared earlier. This week we are actually starting a new sermon series. We were talking about the you effect last week. We were talking about how you leave an impact on people's lives. You have influence on people's lives, whether it's your family or your friends. You can leave an influence on their life. And this week, we're actually starting a new series called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. Now, this series is going to follow the story of a guy named Joseph. He came from the book of Genesis, which is the very first book of the Bible. And Joseph had a really interesting life. And this whole series, we're going to walk through what happened in his life. And today, we're actually going to be specifically talking about Joseph and his family. And Joseph had a whole lot of family issues. If any of you know the story of Joseph, you might know what I'm talking about. If you don't know the story of Joseph, you are going to get to know some of his family issues that he had. But before we get into that, first I want to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like you are living in two completely different worlds? Like, have you ever felt like, there's kind of this life that you're living while you're at school, or maybe you even call this like the actual life that you're living when you're at school, when you're with your friends, maybe when you're in your band class, or you're playing sports or something like that, or when you're there, you're one person, and then you go home and you're someone completely different. I relate to this. Actually, when I'm outside of my house, I love people. I'm super relational. I love talking to people. Once I get home, I shut down just a little bit. I kind of close in. I go downstairs where my room is, and I play video games by myself or online with a couple other guys. I'm a little bit selective with who I play video games with, and I kind of shut down, and I'm a little bit less like, hey, come hang out with me. I'm a little bit more like, you know what, I'm just going to kind of do my own thing. And we all act a way at home that a lot of times we don't act when we are with our friends or we're in school and in public. But why is this? Like, why do we act two completely different ways depending on where we are? And there may be a lot of reasons for this, but I think the number one reason for this is me. I think of home as my own little world. When I'm at home, like, everything revolves around me. It's all about me. How can I be comfortable? It doesn't matter how everybody else is. It's all about me, 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 me. And in our world, we want things to be our way. Now, that makes sense because it's our world. It should be the way that we want it. But that's not really true anywhere else we go, and we realize that. And so we change whenever we whenever we go anywhere else. And even though we know that we can get attitude with people from our school, or that we never feel the level we have to go at home, some of us, home feels like the only place that's safe for us to actually be the realest version of ourselves. Now you have to ask the question, I ask myself this all the time, like, I'm super relational, I love people when I'm out, but when I'm at home, I'm not that way. Which one is actually the truest me? Like, am I actually a super relational person, or do I prefer to be reserved and I just turn that on when I'm in public? Or do I just turn it off when I'm at home? And I don't know if there's actually a true answer to that, or if there is. I think both are a real me, but I just think it's impossible for one person just to be on and super relational all the time. We have to reserve back. So I think when we go at home and when we're thinking about us, we're kind of reserving back just a little bit because we need to recharge our batteries or something. And at the same time, we all tend just to become the realest self, but sometimes that realest self is the worst version of ourselves. That no matter what's happening, I ask the question, how does this affect me? When I'm at home, that's the question I'm asking all the time. How does this affect me? How does dinner affect me? How does my time affect me? All of it is about me. And I mean, when you think about it, we say or do at home in responses to how we answer the question, how does it affect me? As we respond about these things that are affecting us, we don't know how they're affecting the people that are actually around us. Those people I'm talking about are our family. So the question is, what do you do about it? When you are deciding how this affects you at home, you're not thinking about the people around you. What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do when things get tough at home, when the mood is just off, when you know that you're part of the reason why you're at home, just there's tension, when you're part of the reason why there's an issue? How are you going to react to that? Because when there's an issue at home with your family, it's no longer just about you, it's about everyone else around you. Now, I don't know how your at home life is right now, but let me tell you that this is not new. If you have problems at home right now, which is very common right now because of how often we're all at home, but if you're having some sort of issue at home, that you're not the first person to ever go through it. I've had problems with my family. I'm sure your small group leaders have had problems with their families, whether it's their families now or their families when they were your age. And this goes way back into even the story of Joseph, which we will be talking about today, which started in Genesis, which is at the very beginning of time as we know it. And then over the next couple of weeks, we're going to spend some time looking at this story. And he's one of the most famous people in the first half of the Bible. Joseph is one of the, they made a whole movie off of it and made lots of money because he was just such a popular character that they wrote about. And so you're going to see this guy who's just like us, who found himself in all kinds of situations where he didn't know what to do. And so when we're going to look at Genesis 37 here, we're going to read about how Jacob, who's the father of Joseph, made this beautiful coat for him. And so what this was just a physical reminder of how much his dad loved him. So Joseph, a little background story here, Joseph was the youngest of a whole lot of siblings. So he had a lot of brothers, and Joseph was the last one to be born. And for some reason, Jacob, his dad, decides, you know what? I like him. Joseph is my favorite. And so he raises Joseph completely different than he raised any other brothers. The other brothers worked out in the fields while Joseph stayed home and studied. The other brothers had to do all kinds of stuff that Joseph never had to do. And then on top of that, Joseph got this beautiful coat of many colors. And this was just to show how much Jacob loved Joseph. And Joseph would wear this coat around, and like you would probably be with your brothers or your sisters or really just any of your siblings, you would probably show off that, hey, look, I'm wearing this coat. I look good in it. And you know what? You don't have that coat because Dad loves me more. And I can just imagine, and I bet you can just imagine, how his brothers would react to that. And it wasn't positive. They didn't like Joseph. And that wasn't the only issue, because Joseph also had a series of dreams. Now, in these dreams, they're actually dreams from God. But in these dreams, he would see things that would ultimately be telling him, Joseph is gonna end up being in a high position of power one day, and his brothers are gonna end up worshiping him. They're gonna bow down and worship to him. And so really what this is meaning is at some point, Joseph in his life is gonna be in a high position of power over his brothers. And then Joseph, being a younger brother, in the way that his father already loves him more, and now he's having these dreams about how he's going to be in a position of power, he goes and he brags to his brothers that, hey, one day you're going to bow down to me. That I might be younger than you, I might be smaller than you, but one day you're just going to follow whatever I say. And guess what? His brothers didn't like that. And for a younger brother to say this to older brothers, they're not just going to fly, they're not going to just let this fly. The passage goes on to just talk about all these things that Joseph is doing that is just ticking off his brothers. And you can imagine the tension that is forming in this family. You have one dad. There's actually 4 moms in this family. And there are a dozen boys, and the youngest of all the boys is the favorite, and the favorite, who is the youngest, is going around and telling everybody, my dad loves me so much, and he doesn't even love you, and I'm going to do all this great stuff, and you're just going to stay here on the farm, and you're just going to work for Dad the rest of your life, and you're going to bow down to me, and this thing is all going to be great for me. Joseph was behaving like I do sometimes. There are times in my life, especially when I'm at home, where I would say, I behave like Joseph, where I brag to my siblings about something, where I hold some sort of, where I feel like I hold some sort of position of power over them. And so I brag to them because of that. Or sometimes I feel like, you know what? I could be my parents' favorite. You know, I'm doing the thing that my parents would love. You know, I'm trying to lead a ministry of high school students, which my parents think is awesome. And my sisters, you know, they don't even go to church. Maybe I am my parents' favorite. And maybe I walk around at home just a little bit with my chin a little bit too high, thinking I'm doing everything right. And my parents love me more because of it. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but I 100% relate to how Joseph sometimes is feeling, of feeling like, you know what? I got all this good stuff going for me right now, and my siblings don't have anywhere near as much going for them. And Joseph's family was the exact same way. All Joseph's brothers could see was how the whole situation affected them as individuals. The unfair and the unjust. You look at like, if you're thinking, you know what, I have been alive longer than Joseph, I should get all this stuff first. A lot of times the oldest brother, whoever the oldest brother is, they're the one who would get the most from dad. That one day when dad died, they would get the largest portion of land, and then after that, because as you get younger, you would get less and less land. And so the oldest should be the only one that deserves this position of power, but for some reason the youngest has it. And this really made them upset. And they decided it was unfair and it was unjust. And the truth is, even though through these few verses, you hear about this coat and you hear about these strange dreams, we're still reading this story today for a reason. I think there's 3 reasons why we still read this. And one is to show us that families have always been complicated. Right now, you're at home a whole lot. You're thinking about like how much you've been actually around your family, how much you've been around your siblings, how much you've been around your parents. And, you know, I bet you since this quarantine has happened, something has happened within your family that's been some form of tension. And whether it's still happening right now, or if it's already happened, you guys have resolved it, you might be thinking, holy cow, we've never had this kind of tension before. What is going on? Like, why is it being so complicated? But this story reminds us that there have been family issues since the very beginning of time. It's also to teach us to pay attention to how our actions and even our situations can affect the people that we live with. Think back to the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the influence that you have. We talked a lot about the influence that you have with your friends, and we also talked about a lot of the influence that you have with your family. Whether you're the oldest, the youngest, you're somewhere in the middle, you have some sort of influence on your family. Joseph had been the youngest, and at this time, he should have had almost zero influence on his family, but he had so much influence. So regardless of where you fall in your family, you have the opportunity to leave an effect on them. You have the opportunity to either positively affect your family or be like Joseph and negatively affect your family. And the third reason is to remind us that tension left unresolved will never just go away. Now, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about the story of Joseph, and we're going to go into exactly what happened, but I'll give you a quick run through. After all this stuff growing up of Joseph bragging about how they will bow down to him one day, and he's loved by dad more, and he doesn't have to do all the work in the field like they do, and he has all this special stuff, you know what his brothers end up doing? His brothers throw him down a well and sell him to slavery. And so Joseph ends up, they kick him out of the family, like in the worst way possible. They don't just like say, all right, dude, just leave. Here's a little bit of money. Go and just live a different life somewhere else. No, they didn't do that. They threw him down a well and they sold him to slavery to be a slave to somebody else. And through the course of a few different events and through these dreams that Joseph is having, he learns how to interpret dreams, and he actually ends up interpreting dreams for some of the right-hand people to Pharaoh, who is the king over Egypt at the time, and he ends up working his way up, and then he ends up in jail for a little bit, and then he ends up working his way up to actually working directly with Pharaoh, and he becomes the right-hand man of Pharaoh, and eventually when he's the right-hand man of Pharaoh, his brother, he comes face to face with his brothers again. And he has the opportunity again, years later in his life, to either leave a positive impact on his family, a positive effect on his family, or negatively affect them again. And I'm not going to talk about what happens. You'll have to stay for the next couple of weeks and hear about how that story actually ends up. But one day he does come face to face with his family again, and he has to make a decision on how he's going to act, either like his brothers or more like God. And so what could we do in our family differently than what Joseph did? Joseph could have started to see himself as part of the problem. Joseph thought his brothers were just the problem. They just thought, they're not as good as me, and so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because what I'm doing is best. And so Joseph just thought, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing me. Whatever it is, I'm just going to keep doing me. And then he didn't see himself as part of the problem. The brothers, they could have chilled out just a little bit. The brothers really didn't like Joseph. Now, yes, Joseph was kind of a jerk about it, but the brothers didn't have to go as far as selling him into slavery and kicking him out of the family completely. And dad, you think about having some sort of issues with dad. Dad could have recognized how his favoritism towards his youngest son was actually affecting how the entire family was being affected overall. Now, I know favoritism is something that maybe you feel like your siblings are the favorite. Hardly anyone ever says, I'm the favorite in the family. Maybe sometimes you think that, but you never say that out loud. Favoritism is one of the things that can tear a family apart. That when you show favoritism to one kid over another, even if as a child, if you show favoritism to one parent over another, you can completely tear a family apart because of favoritism. That's what actually happened in Joseph's story. It all stemmed from the favoritism that their dad showed to Joseph over the sons. And everybody in the end could have ignored Joseph's dreams and not allowed that to be what drives the family's tensions. That they could have accepted his dreams as something cool, but something that might happen in the future, and just not let that have been, you know what, we're going to let that drive our anger. And Joseph could have been a little better with his dreams when describing them. So the point is, Joseph's family's drama isn't all different from our own. Now, you're not going to get sold into slavery. Slavery has been illegal in the United States for, almost 200 years now. You're not going to get sold into slavery. But I do know of plenty of families where somebody has left a family because of a tension that was left unresolved. I actually have an older sister who there was a lot of tension surrounding her and just our family for years, where she was a little bit a kind of an angry teenager, and as her younger brother, I liked to poke the bear, so to speak, and just make her more angry. And ultimately she went off to college, and she did all this stuff, and she didn't leave our family, but she also didn't necessarily want to be a major part of it. And it wasn't just because of her, it was also because of the way that we acted as a family as well. And she kind of turned away from us for a little bit. She moved around a lot, and she really wasn't involved with our family very much. And one day, we just kind of decided, you know what? There's some tension that's just left unresolved in this relationship with someone who we love very much. We never stopped loving her. She never stopped loving us, but there was just tension in our family, and her and my mom walked through a lot of this tension, and because of it, we actually have a phenomenal relationship with her again, and she's completely a major aspect of all of our lives. And she now has a 7-month-old son named Alden, who we all love. They were here visiting us from Minnesota last week. And it's just awesome to see that tension be resolved and see our family come back together as a family. But that doesn't happen to every family. I know of close friends whose siblings have just left the family completely, and the family's just waiting for them with open arms to come back, but their sibling they won't come back. And sometimes they never do. And it's terrible when that type of tension is left unresolved. In the same way in this story, there was tension left unresolved, and so when Joseph has the opportunity to face the tension head on, And this happens at the end of Joseph's story when he gets the opportunity to face that tension head on. He gets to decide, am I going to resolve this tension and act more like God? Or am I going to just sit in this tension and just I have the opportunity just to hurt my brothers more than they ever hurt me before? And guys, I don't know what your family's like. I'm not at your house. I'm on a TV or a computer screen, maybe your phone screen right now, talking to you, and you can't even have a conversation back with me. I have no idea what your family's like. But guys, it is so important for us to resolve that tension in our lives. If there is any tension in your family right now, you just need to start working on resolving it. That way you can repair the relationships that are in your family. Now, in order to do that, you might have to think about those three things that why we still look over this story of Joseph. One, it shows that families are complicated, but two, it teaches us to look at our own actions. What actions have you done to create tension within your family? We're at home a ton. We're at home so much right now, we all are starting to just hate it. I think it was kind of fun to be home a lot for a little while. For me, I'm working from home. It's been a little bit fun to not have to drive to work or anything like that, other than Wednesdays to do these. And it's been a little enjoyable. All my school has been online, which has been kind of fun, just not to drive all the way out to Papillion for class. It's been good. But I also know that being home means more of the negative actions that I have, or I'm doing more actions at home, which means I'm doing some positive, but I'm probably doing more negative. And so I have to realize that I am a part of the issue and why there is tension within my family, and I have to be willing to resolve it. And then three, the reason why was to remind us that tension it left unresolved, it will never just go away. Tension just doesn't leave. We have to resolve the tension in order for it to go away. Now, one of the great ways we can do this is by talking about this with someone who is older than us. Some of the best times of my life where I've been called out for how I'm acting is not from my parents, but from another adult who's saying, dude, that's stupid, what are you doing? And then with these older adults, they're able to speak into our lives because honestly, they probably made those same mistakes when they were our age. They made the same type of mistakes, and so this is why we have small groups. One, it's a supportive community of people who are walking in life with you, hopefully walking towards Jesus with you, but also so that you have an adult leader in your life who is able to pour into you and call you on some of what is really just BS that you may be doing in your life. This is why we do small groups, is so that you can have that person in your life who's going to invest and who's going to advise on it and help you do what would be best for you in your life. So bring it up with them. They are dying to help you through this type of situation. They want to help resolve the tension in your life, and they want to help resolve the tension in your families. And I'm going to end with this. What if everyone paid attention to how they affected everybody else? What if you paid attention to how you affected everybody else? What would it do with the relationships that are closest to you in your house? What would it do for the general level of tension within your home if you just looked at the way that you affected other people? What if it started with you? Now, guys, we're going to be breaking up into small groups now, and I really want to see some great conversations happening about maybe some of the tension that's happening in your family. If you don't have tension in your family right now, we're not trying to create any by you thinking of reasons to have tension. But guys, if you have tension in your family, then let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in these small groups. That way we can start to figure out how can we take steps to resolve this tension. How can we take steps to fix this stuff? If you are not a part of a small group, there is a link in the description below, and that is going to send you to a Zoom link that I will be leading a group, and I would love to get you into one of our small groups and navigate you towards a small group of a group who is your grade level and who is male or female. And so I just want to get you guys involved with a small group if you're not already in one, so we can start resolving the tension in your life. And if you need any type of just personal one-on-one, like you just think, you know what, I don't know how to talk about this, I don't know how to navigate this situation, and you really need to talk to somebody right now, you can also hit that Zoom link and you can come talk to me one-on-one if you need to. If you feel like this tension is just too much, we can talk face-to-face about it right now if you would like to. I'm waiting for you on the other side of that Zoom link. So guys, I love each and every one of you. I was so glad that you guys joined us. For the next couple weeks, actually for the next 3 weeks, Seth Monteith is actually going to be continuing this series, and he's going to be bringing more of the story of Joseph and talking about how we can resolve tension and how we can navigate through situations when we don't know what to do. And so I'm super excited for Seth to join us and to lead us through some of these conversations. And I'm going to pray for us, and then we'll break out into our small groups later. So pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this message. I thank you for all these students who want to see tension resolved in their families, that regardless of if they've started or somebody else has started, they want to be the ones that finish it. They want to be the ones that end the tension within their families, that they want to be the ones that are going to be different and fix their relationships within the people who are in their homes. I thank you for our small group leaders who are willing to invest into our students, who are willing to just love on them each and every day, and that our students would know that our small group leaders are here for them at any point in which they would need it. Thank you so much for just leading us, and may we all be back here again next week for a message that Seth is going to bring. And in Jesus' name we pray, amen. We'll see you guys later.